France, where there was the Barrage was getting underway last week or the last weekend. We had the two first round games of the knockouts. The first one we had was Racing and La Rochelle, which wasn't in the U Arena because apparently that was booked for a concert on the same night.
Lovely.
Yeah, so it was
decent business.
Lovely outdoor, but it was too lovely of a day to have it indoor anyway.
The stadium looked great.
Did,
yeah. U Arena is probably a little overrated, especially on a summer's day.
Well, on a summer's day, I think, it'd be shocking considering how nice the sunset was and how loud and wonderful and vibrant the
something I really associate with French rugby is like one of the things that they have,
loud crowds,
exactly,
in the sunshine,
100%, and songs, and they show everyone else up when it comes to fans of their domestic teams. Anyway, they're just the best fans by far. And La Rochelle again showing that the La Rochelle home fans showed up in decent numbers, and the Racing fans
home fans
showed up in decent numbers, but the La Rochelle travelling support was magnificent, and it made for an occasion of great colour and great spectacle. Which helped cheer up what was a bit of a stop-start game.
It was,
but you felt the occasion of it.
You definitely did. Well, it was knockout rugby in both of these games actually, and it was La Rochelle putting the clinic on. To be honest, they were soaking pressure for the first 10 minutes of that game. Racing were throwing everything, the kitchen sink and more, all kinds of crazy little offloads and plays, cross kicks and stuff that just weren't coming off.
They defended with good structure, and they were a little more conservative when they had the ball. They weren't totally. They played their own game to an extent, but it was much more controlled and more a sense of finals footy that John Gibbs put in them for this game.
Well, they were noting in the commentary their Kiwi halfback pairing of Kerr-Barlow and Ehai West have kicked the least ball in top couture all season. Even from exits, they've run it out of their 22 more often than not this year. But that wasn't the case in the final. They were using the box kick. One of them was rubbish and was charged down and was very dangerous, but again Racing didn't manage to make anything of it. But it was noticeable that they were using the bomb, they were using the box kick.
They understood that the Racing back three were there to be got at.
That's true. They always are. They're loose.
They played a game to play Racing. That's why it's finals footy. It's not just you tighten up and be conservative in finals footy. It's that you do a job on your opposition. The only object here is to win. And Racing wanted to take the game to this helter-skelter place that La Rochelle probably would have been fine with in the regular season. But La Rochelle wanted to win this game, and they knew the way to beat Racing is not necessarily to get into a shooting battle with them.
Yes, because
throwing intercept passes to Finn Russell, who's been showing them up this year. Instead, let's tighten it up a little bit, and kick
all your threes.
But it was kick all your threes. They're just being conservative, being structured, not giving too much away, showing great scramble D, and then exploiting Racing's mistakes, which were impatience and ill discipline, and that was a constant theme of certainly that opening.
The opening stanza of the half was, or of the first half, was definitely all Racing attack for naught, and then eventually La Rochelle managed an exit, got a penalty that was kickable, and kicked it. And that was such a initial slap in the face, where it's all your huff and puff, all your this and that, and many drop balls and ill discipline later, we're the ones taking the lead. And then they went 9-0 up, or 9-0 up, or 9-0 12, and then 12, wasn't it? It was 3-6-9 and then 12, and because Racing's discipline really went once they didn't score that, and then La Rochelle were kind of getting control on the tempo. Then you saw some silly penalties from lots of them, and then it was Shaughnessy who ended up being the one who was carded for it. But there were a collection of very
good players,
daft
but that was a very poor error from a guy who's the captain. That's absolute terrible play, and there was a lot of it. There was not a lot of cool heads.
It was not. They didn't look like a very collective performance.
And
they were all over the place.
The key point about Racing now, because they've got, this is a negative year for them after last year. Despite the signing of Russell and Zebo obviously, but Zebo hasn't been good for them really anyway. But Russell has, and I think actually the crux of what's going on here is that instead of being the team of Machino, what they were in terms of control, they're now the team of Russell, and that has huge positives. But it also has the negatives of not really controlling the game that well, and this is why I'm pretty disappointed actually in Machino. I think he's kind of lost it a little bit, because what you want with a Machino Russell combination is the best of both worlds. You want Machino's structure, you want Machino's control, you want Machino to be your captain really, and him to be telling everyone and disciplining everyone on the pitch getting the structure in order, and then you want the best of Finn. You want to give him the ball and give him the creativity to do what he does.
Yeah.
But instead, what you're having is Machino being just out of the game basically entirely. The whole thing is becoming about Finn. And he just, like, he's a senior player. He should be the captain, but if he's not the captain, he's one of the leaders, and he's just vanishing and not taking control and not commanding his pack, not getting or giving structure to the game, and not sort of unleashing Finn in the ways that he should be doing. I think you are getting the best of Finn.
Yeah,
but you're not getting.
He's doing the best of what he can get. I think he's not quite gelled with Shaughnessy is a problem for them too. I think Shaughnessy worked better in the last team as a kind of a more sturdy kind of enforcer 12 that he is, and doesn't really seem to get a read on what Finn does as much. But their pack are all over the place. Sometimes they're on the wing, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're in ruck, sometimes they're not. They can be very loose in terms of turnovers. It was definitely
Dominic Bird had a bit of a shocker.
Dominic Bird was giving away ludicrous penalties. Actually, he was probably more deserving of the card than Shaughnessy. It was one moment from Shaughnessy, but it was around 3 or 4 in quick succession from Dominic Bird.
Definitely an issue, and things improved like when they got Nakarawa on as well. Like Nakarawa and Ryan changes Racing massively.
True,
but none of it speaks very highly of the two much lauded Laurens.
Yes,
they have oodles of talent, and as you say, just like little misfiring combinations. Senior players not
in the game,
emboldened the way they should be. Teddy Thomas not played into the game. All of these little like problems, and they're getting a lot of credit for playing loose running rugby, but I'm sorry, like if you have Finn Russell, Vakatawa and Teddy Thomas and Simon Zebo in a team that no coach is with, you're going to get basically the same result. They're going to just play helter-skelter rugby, score some class tries, but ultimately in the season, for the talent that they have, come up short. And Racing is a team with a load of potential, but they're getting a lot wrong, and it's a concerning picture for them. They have to fix it. There's no guarantee that they will fix it.
Yeah, and conversely then, from La Rochelle's point of view, excellent masterclass in how to do it, because they went there, took their 12-point lead, and then the last play of the half, Racing chose to kick 3 for a 9-point deficit at half time, which was silly ultimately as well.
Certainly at that moment you would have felt they would have needed a try to get into the game.
But they were also thinking, we need to score some points, which was very defeatist
they
kind of
probably
approach.
Gave up at any like a realistic chance when they didn't go for the try. Then
the next thing that happened was an absolute worldie of a try from La Rochelle, who are also a very dangerous attacking team, and their wingers, particularly actually Ratier, who bagged this try, was probing all first half as well and looking dangerous. And then in the second half, around 50 odd minutes in, it came, and it was actually Rattez on the right wing, break dancing along it, getting a great offload off, and then shout out to Dumaru. Excellent heads up play to get a ball and just kind of haphazardly toe it out to where the space is, and reading that situation perfectly. Lovely crossfield kick, and Ratier gratefully gobbled up what was a deserved try for all of his efforts.
And Rattez is a little danger man as well. But all over the park, a lot of structure, a lot of class, a lot of control. Their defence will be, it remains to be seen. Their scramble D was great in the day. It's like a proper test coming next week.
When they were in the game, you are right in saying, you've said it off camera, that they do like stop playing, and they did in the game stop playing and allow Racing back in with a chance for it, and Racing did have a chance for it towards the end.
And one of their worst qualities is that like they like whenever the game isn't in the balance one way or another, they do tend to just sort of ease off a little bit. Mind you, they didn't when they won 81-7 on that last week. That's great. But they have had games where they've just completely ceased to play, and they've also had them when they go behind and they just stop playing and get the heads down. They do have that French element to them, which is why I would worry for them perhaps a little bit
in the later stages of the next game, which is where we're at now. But nevertheless, like going to Racing, having to travel for it, managing to get themselves into it, because they were obviously their last few weeks have been very competitive, and they went to the final in the Challenge Cup as well. So they've had a long season where they've been competing on multiple fronts, and this performance will be very encouraging for them, because it was against their style of play. It involved really big performances from Ehio West and Kerr-Barlow as well, really controlling influences on the game. And when they were playing a game that they haven't really been practicing all season, but really, really well done, credit to them. So yeah, John O'Gibbs, little sprinkles.
John O'Gibbs, probably the biggest difference between the two teams is the quality of Gibbs versus the much lauded Lawrence.
Yes, yeah.
Gibbs doesn't get enough credit. I know he had a terrible time at Ulster, but he's a top coach.
Yeah, you can't blame anyone for having a terrible time at Ulster. I think
there's no question that he did his reputation damage just because he seemed so disinterested. He wasn't in the province a lot. Like he was. He was 1 foot out the door the whole time, basically. Yeah. But when he puts his mind to something, boy, is he a good coach. And he's doing a job with La Rochelle at the moment.
Yeah, well, sure, their renaissance has been emphatic and excellent.
It's going to be an awesome game. It's going to be an awesome game. Their task this week is out in Toulouse, and that's mouth-watering Toulouse.
Potential for them. They're probably going to attack a little more than they did in that La Rochelle when they'll want to get into.
Yeah, if they come in with a mindset to shut down to Toulouse or kick to their back
three, I wouldn't do as much. I don't think it's as gettable.
Also, like Kerr-Barlow even and Ihai West had a very good game, but they're not like your top level really dependable kickers of a ball.
No,
it's entirely more likely that one of them will have an off day, and then if you start kicking loose against Toulouse,
to Colby and Medard and all these boys who are going to link up and create havoc.
Ramos is such a
unless Ramos is at 10 and could be, we don't know what's going to happen.
This is the thing with Toulouse, like we haven't seen them play a really big match in a while. The last big match that they would have played would have been the Leinster game, proper big match, because they were always predetermined to finish first basically the whole season. So it was that loss against Leinster where Dupont was at 10 but it didn't quite work, where it had been working. So they still have decisions to make at 10. Do they forgive Zach Holmes his egregious red card and bring him back? Do they go for Ramos? Do they go for Entomac? Do they go for Dupont? It's like a lot of these guys are going to be somewhere in the back line. We just don't know where. But whatever Toulouse select, you can be sure that they are going to bring some flair and some free flowing rugby. It's a curious picture for them in finals footy. We've seen them.
Well, it's a big test of this team because this team's been new this year. So it's been one of the great stories of the year has been the rebirth of Toulouse. And they're like, I would love, my favourite thing to have happen in the top tours now is for Toulouse to go on and win it. For all manner of reasons, but yes, mainly to kind of put a stamp seal on that, be top seeds for Europe next year and back where they belong in as European like they don't need to be in a group with Leinster at all or Sarries.
Indeed.
That would be a good thing to avoid. But we still don't know how they're going to do in finals footy. They did excellently well in their quarterfinal in Europe. They tried some kind of inadvisable, because like you're saying it had worked with Dupont, it had worked the week before. And then they kind of haphazardly changed what they had been doing for the sake of it, and Leinster are too savvy a team for that. So maybe that's a lesson they've learned from.
Well,
it means we've had 2 knockout games to read on, and one of them was excellent, albeit with Zach Holmes's. They had to do it with 14 men the hard way, and then didn't quite get it right, admittedly, in Dublin, which is not a factor in this. No. So they're going to be at home. They're going to be against a side. They have beaten this year.
They can't come out cold. They have to come out hot. The last big game I remember when they beat Leinster and Toulouse. I still keep going back to that game. There was a real finals footy element to that, even though it was obviously regular season. It was just they did their homework on Leinster, put up a big defensive shift, isolated what they were doing in attack and stopped them. And that's the kind of aggressive, focused Toulouse that you want. If they're a little loose, you could see it going wrong for them. La Rochelle's scramble D against Racing showed that.
For sure.
And so it's there's a lot of permutations. It's a lot of fun. I'm sure there's going to be another huge La Rochelle travelling support.
And we know Toulouse fans will be there in full voice and in full flag as well.
Definitely a game to watch. And becoming a really great end. Thanks for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you enjoyed that video, please like down below and subscribe for more videos. And please enter the comments section to join our conversation. Thanks.